because he was raised in a royal family of white folks, he thought that he could reason. So after the war was fought, they somehow tricked him with some fake diplomacy to go over to France. Dessalines told him not to go. Said, never trust them. Do not go. You see, and his words was, never trust the white man. Do not go. You see what I'm saying? But where he was raised, you see what I'm saying? Where he was raised, he went anyway, and Napoleon and them locked him up when he got over there. You see what I'm saying? Because they lost the war. And they locked him up, and he died being locked up in France. It was so he did not go to see the complete independence of inauguration of a new country. You see what I'm saying? Of a new empire. It was Dessalines, which was an Ogun figure. You see what I'm saying? A Shango figure who went on into the promised land. Same thing with Moses. He didn't go, it was Aaron. You see what I'm saying? So, by Martin Luther King being a form of Elegba, St. Martin, he did not go to see the kingdom realized, the inauguration. Remember I told you this, the Barack Obama thing, that the greatest thing he could ever do for us was the inauguration. Don't count on him to do nothing else. You see what I'm saying? His job was done. You see what I'm saying? Because we're talking about inauguration of two houses, the house of the living and the house of the dead. The house of the dead is the house of the ancestors, and that is the real house that will live. We're going to go into this stuff tonight. Now, Martin Luther King did not see that. Just like Elegba, he took us to the doorway, but didn't cross over. Now, let's go on. Now, remember now, same time in 1968, Bobby Kennedy said, in 40 years from this day, his prophecy will have a black president. Now, remember now, don't look at Barack Obama for nothing else other than what he has done just to be inaugurated. We're talking about roles, and these roles are here only to track the energy. It's to track, ultimately, what's going on inside of our bodies. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to tie this stuff together, but you got to listen very closely on what I'm trying to say. Because he acted in the role of a Elegba, that means that his energy was a Tahuti, Anubis, the opener of the way, or Ganesha. You see what I'm saying? And because of that, whenever he was killed, and he was killed, because he did open a doorway, his life was the doorway. But whenever he was killed, and the pain and suffering, it created a vortex. It created a vortex, and because the God was involved, Elegba, the one that would ultimately, the one you have to get to call on the lowers, and all of the pain and suffering, in all honesty, what happened was, he created what is called Dante's Inferno. Now, let me explain. You really don't get a lot on hell in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? Whenever we hear of hell, the Christian church didn't have a lot on hell. They just had the devil in the Bible, and you'll ultimately go to hell and burn in hell. But the whole breakdown of the apparatus, the entire terrain, the entire civilization of hell, they didn't have a lot on that until they learned this stuff from Dante's Inferno. That's where they got the hell. Even Valentine said their hell came from Dante's Inferno. They didn't have a hell. They had to learn it. Now, Dante learned it from some mythology called Bullfinch's mythology, whereas they had these mythologies of these different levels of hell. These different levels of hell. Dante studied these things. It came out of the Greek papyrus, but it actually ultimately came out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or what they call the Book of Gates. So either the Greco-Egyptian papyrus, either the Egyptian priests translated these things for the Greeks, or the Greeks got it from Phoenicia. More than likely they got it from Phoenicians, because that's where they get most of their mythology from, Phoenicians. The Phoenicians are the phones, or the typhones. Those are pre-dynastic Egyptians that moved in the area, which later on became Carthage, and you know now as Libya, Upper Africa. You see, because their god Athena comes from that. Hold on to her, because we're going to get into her in a few minutes.
All right.
Now, and this, we put this stuff down. You have to go back and study what I'm saying, because you can't get it, comprehend it all in one setting, but we're putting it down. So whatever it was, it either came by way of Greek, Egypt, translated to Greece, or it came by way of mythology that came from Phoenicia, from the Phoenicians. I think it came from the Phoenicians, pre-dynastic Egyptians that was in that particular area, or what they call Cushites, that ruled from Mount Kilimanjaro all the way up into doggone India. The Indus Kush, which they mentioned in this last movie, the king of Persia, which is also that same terrain. So anyway, they got these papyrus, and the papyrus talks about these several levels of hell. The later Christians, by the time you had the Conference of Nicaea, they didn't have a lot of this particular hell stuff. So they had to go to Dante's Inferno. Now, it's interesting because right now, everything comes for a reason. You can go to Target, or you can go to any place that sells DVDs. Target, Walmart, or where have you, and they're selling both, I know in Target and Walmart, and you can buy Dante's Inferno. They now have a whole DVD, animated DVD, where they go to these seven levels of hell. Now, these 7 levels of hell in the Palo, or what we call Congo, because the Africans had it, the 7 levels of hell that we had in the Congo is called La Spiritus Intranquilis, 7 entangled spirits. La Spiritus Intranquilius, 7 entangled spirits. That is the Dante's Inferno, these infernal regions. Now we're going to tie this all the way back into your body in a few minutes. So, what happened when, because we knew it was going to happen in the west, because the Egyptians say that hell is in the west and the land of the dead is in the west. Osiris is the god of the dead. He's also called the Great Westerner. The Great Westerner. And there's a whole concept of the Legba-Osiris complex. The Legba-Osiris scenario. Because both of them, because in this particular case, a Legba is a doorway, Osiris, you see what I'm saying, dies. And so even in the book, Vodou Gnostic Workbook, they talk about the mysteries of a Legba-Osiris. Michael Bernio, Vodou Gnostic Workbook. So now, to break this thing down, the Osirian realm is in the west. We know that everything that they talk about, they say the Son of Man will become in the west. So everything that you've been reading on these ancient materials, the ground on where all that would go down would be in the west. It would have to be with a people that's old enough to experience these things, because the other people wasn't around when these scriptures was written and these ancient papyruses were written. We are those people. So when Martin Luther King was killed, it set up Dante's Inferno. In so many words on what I'm trying to tell you, is when Martin Luther King died on April the 4th, 1968, what was a mythological aspect of a place that was